The Red Dead Redemption series is not short of corrupt lawmen. The unfaithful Sheriff Malloy in Valentine, or the controversial Sheriff Freeman in Tumbleweed, but one whose dastardly deeds have seemingly slipped under the radar is the dealings made from the top lawman of Armadillo, Marshal Leigh Johnson. So in today's video, we're going to be exploring this topic. Welcome to the video. You're listening to Phil of Philby Gaming. If you enjoy the following, you all know what to do. And if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed already, after watching, please consider doing so. Without further delay, let's get into what we came here to see. Marshal Leigh Johnson, Lawgiver or Lawbreaker, Red Dead Redemption Myths and Legends. Before we begin to delve into the potential of the lawman's corrupted ways, let's look at what we know so far concerning the history of the man. Marshal Leigh Johnson was born in 1860, making him around 51 years old when we encounter him in 1911. He was married to a lady named Priscilla, who tragically passed to unknown causes in 1903. Given that her gravestone is in the cemetery of Cooch Chapel, it's safe to assume that the couple resided in the town of Armadillo, or close by at the very least. At some point during his adult life, Johnson became part of law enforcement, working his way through the ranks, eventually becoming the Marshal of Armadillo, overseeing not only the town, but its surrounding areas in the region of Cholla Springs, New Austin. The Marshal began governing the town in 1897, bringing order to this once lawless land. During 1907, Armadillo became plagued by cholera. Instead of placing restrictions to reduce the spread of the pandemic, the Marshal, alongside many of the town's residents, fled the town, abandoning his post and leaving it to rot, before his return sometime before 1911. This alone may give us some insight to the character of the man. Maybe due to this, some of the locals seem to have a lack of respect for the Marshal, or the local law in general.
Oh, they took my boy! My boy!
Who did?
He's missing. He's only a youngster. My boy is missing.
Where? Who took him?
Them people in the hills. Them hills near Hanging Rock. They took it.
Can't the police force help you?
Oh, they can't even help themselves. Please, sir. My son is missing. I need your help.
But are these just the angry complaints of the locals, or is there something more to the man than first meets the eye? We first learn of Marshal Johnson from Jake, a local whistleblower who resides in the town of Armadillo, as he escorts John Marston to Fort Mercer during John's pursuit of notorious outlaw Bill Williamson.
Yeah, so it was the Marshal who hired me, Leigh Johnson. Do you know him?
I think I heard his name.
Says he got a telegram from some Blackwater big bugs asking for a guide. I guess it's none of my business.
That's right.
Then later from Bonnie McFarlane, who pushes John to seek out the Marshal.
You know, you should go pay the Marshal a visit in Armadillo sometime. I'm sure he could help you deal with that nice Mr. Williamson.
Yeah, I might just do that, Miss McFarlane.
You do whatever you think's best, Mr. Marston.
So after several citizens mentioning the man, it's time for John to meet him.
Excuse me.
Hey, you got a visitor.
Shut up, you! And what you want?
My name's John Marston. You wanted to speak to me.
I did?
Apparently so.
Why?
I guess because we're both in the business of the law.
You that fella from the train company?
No, I'm from Fort Mercer.
Fort Mercer? You them, one of them Williamson boys.
Calm down.
Go on, shoot him, mister. Shoot him.
Come, what, you getting kicked with me, boy?
What's going on here?
I got me one of them Williamson boys.
I got me one of them idiots who give marshals a bad name.
Jonah, put your gun down. You must be the man from Blackwater.
Yes, sir. Listen, that dog ain't too bright, but he seems loyal.
Jonah, get out of here for a minute.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson, sir. And you. Oh, I done seen enough of your hide around here, friend.
I think there's some school children down the way you can go and frighten.
Oh, hardy fucking har. Dickhead.
What are you doing here, Mr. Marston? Apart from frightening my deputies.
I'm here to capture or kill Bill Williamson.
Okay.
Can you help me?
He's outside my jurisdiction. He's in the next county.
Of course, Bill Williamson and his boys have tended to keep themselves away from my town.
So you're happy to have him out there?
Well, I ain't happy, but I also ain't suicidal. My job is to keep this town safe, not clean up all of these 3 counties. It's hard enough around here.
You know, I hear you speak, and suddenly I'm reminded of how some of the people I respected most in my life had a problem with authority. What's wrong with you?
Well, I'm sure you and your fine friends have enjoyed spending your time running around pursuing noble causes. My cause is to keep this town from turning into a living hell for the folks that live here. Whole world has problems, mister, and I'm here doing what I can.
Why? What's happening?
Right now, I got the railway, the people who pay my salary, trying to get me to turn a blind eye to them burning down settlements up there. I got a bunch of cattle rustlers out near Boggs Canyon needs shutting down. Not forgetting the gang that keeps murdering homesteaders out in the back country. And I got a bunch of hoods over in the saloon, drunk, threatening to shoot up the whole town. That's all I got today. But it's early yet. Give me a couple more days. There'll be more.
All right, tell you what. Let's go deal with them hoods in the saloon. Then we'll discuss Williamson.
Okay, boy. You're a persistent little cuss, ain't you?
Only when things matter. So who we looking for?
Bunch of two-bit hoodlums, led by this fella called Walt. Goddamn road agents who prey on the stages coming in and out of town. Drivers in Armadillo spend more time with their hands in the air than on the reins these days.
And you're happy to let them drink in your saloon?
Happy? No. But the way I figure it, better they're carousing in there than out robbing decent folk.
That's an interesting approach to law enforcement.
I do what I can, Mr. Marston. We ain't the government.
The Marshal makes a pretty strong first impression, an old-fashioned lawman with a no-nonsense attitude. There's a couple of interesting points to note out from this interaction. Firstly, he states that he works for the railroad company, who are asking him to turn a blind eye to them burning down settlements, presumably to lay tracks right through them. This informs us that Leigh Johnson is working under the influence of a corrupted government, but in all fairness, at this current moment, so is John Marston. During the rides up there, the duo continue to conversate.
If Walton's as bad as you say he is, why don't we just beef him now while we got the chance?
Because that ain't how the law works.
Is that right, Marshal?
And alive, he can still talk.
Doesn't sound like he's a man to be reasoned with.
He ain't.
So it's clear the Marshal wishes to bring order to this seemingly lawless land, and wishes to bring Walton in alive for questioning. But what exactly does he have planned for the outlaw? This is something we'll come back to. Upon discovering the bandit location at the Pleasance house, the pair fight their way through the undesirables before bringing Walton to justice.
Not a bad shot, Mr. Marston. Why don't you check in with me next time you're in town?
I don't want to be no policeman, Marshal.
Nor did I, my friend, I can promise you that. I'll see you soon, Mr. Marston.
When the Marshal stated that he didn't want to become a lawman, was this simply a passing comment between associates, or is there something more to the statement? Shortly following the capture of Bolton, John encounters a random interaction where he saves a treasure hunter from bandits, in turn receiving a map, thus triggering the treasure hunter side quest. This may seem off topic to the subject, but there's a subtle scribbling you can find after uncovering the first treasure. On the secondary map, the one that locates the real Del Lobo treasure, there's context in the bottom left hand corner, and although difficult to read, we can make out the initials, MLJ. Marshal Leigh Johnson perhaps. It could be scepticised that the whereabouts of this map, sketched out for the Marshal, was rumoured to be in possession of Walton's gang, or potentially even written by. This will explain a few things we'll come back to. But are smudged initials enough to convince ourselves that the Marshal is in fact corrupt? Well, let's hear what a few more of the townsfolk think, specifically the bank manager. And just before we play this clip, make sure to head on over to the Kick Cult YouTube channel, an excellent content creator who discovered these findings.
I heard the gang of Twin Rocks is in cahoots with Marshal Johnson. They say Marshal Johnson's buried stolen goods out at Rio del Lobo.
This alone almost solidifies that the Marshal was involved in shady dealings. There's further evidence about the locals' feelings towards the law in this town.
My wife, she's gone. She went out picking mushrooms in the hills near Hanging Rock and they got her. The stories are true.
What'd the police do about it?
Oh, about as much as you'd expect. Made me fill out a form.
You okay, lady?
My husband's missing. These bastards won't do anything.
So why the lack of law enforcement? Is it because the Marshal has other agendas on his mind? The feeling between the townsfolk of Armadillo and Marshal Leigh Johnson seems pretty mutual, as we uncover his condescending opinion of the people he's sworn to protect following the elimination of the Bollard Twins gang at Pikes Basin. But first, let's look at the introductory scene to this mission and see if you can spot something.
Hello? Hello? It's Armadillo 731. What is it with these things? Hello? It's a new line. Hello? Hello?
Sounds fun. What's happening?
I have no idea. Yeah, if it's important, they'll send someone down like they did with you.
Suddenly the world is full of days.
Yeah. I remember when we first got here. We used to consider people from Dade County to be exotic. Now guys can get here from the Midwest, and they can do it in 6 days.
Things have changed.
They've gotten away from me. Hello? I don't understand it no more, boy. Honest to goodness.
I'm not sure I do.
Marshal! 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 I'd just been up in the canyon, spying like you said. I think I seen me a couple of them rustlers. I think it was the Bollard twins and a couple of Mexicans.
They up there right now?
Well, it was a group of 4 men rounding up Mr. Gulch's livestock, and none of them looked like any of Gulch's hands, so yes, sir, right now.
That sarcasm's most unbecoming, Eli. It's gonna hold you back in life, even worse than your lazy eye.
All right, let's go.
You ride with us again, Marston?
Will you help me?
I will try.
It'd be my pleasure.
The prisoner inside of the holding cells of the sheriff's office is not Walton, so exactly where is he? Did the Marshal obtain what information he needed before disposing of him? On the ride up to the hideout, the Marshal speaks of his feelings towards John being sent to him by the government.
How long you been working for the government, Marston?
I don't work for the government.
Well, I got a telegram from some federal clowns in Blackwater that says otherwise. I'll be honest with you, Marston. I ain't for all this government interference.
Believe me, Marshal, neither am I.
I try to keep the federal boys happy. I mean, we need all the help we can get. But what does a flannel-mouthed city boy who's never forked a bale of hay in his life know about a state like New Austin?
Nothing, I reckon.
All this manifest destiny hogwash, taming a wild land, bringing modernization and betterments to the West.
It's as if he doesn't want to change his current situation too much, or is concerned about interference. Is he worried about the Federals raining on his parade and putting an end to his dealings? He may feel that right now he has it good, and if higher law enforcement interfere too much, he may lose his gravy train. So it's after fighting their way through the copious amounts of the Bollard gang members following the release of the ranch hands that we learn of the Marshal's feelings towards the townsfolk of Armadillo after learning of the disappearance of a tonics merchant, Nigel West Dickens.
You hear that, Marston? We just butchered a gang of thieves, and the town is up in arms about a missing snake oil merchant. I am so glad to be serving such a wise and respectable people. Come on, Eli.
It was also seen that the Marshal has a tough time keeping his mouth closed as John's intentions spread throughout the county. We hear this from both Bonnie McFarlane and her father, Drew.
Mr. Marston, I've been hearing about your plans.
Have you, Miss McFarlane?
Yes, from Leigh Johnson, to settle here and build a life for yourself.
I'm afraid those aren't my plans. See, I already have a life. You sure have some interesting theories on what the government's doing, sir.
They ain't theories, Mr. Marston. I saw the telegram Marshal got from Blackwater. It ain't exactly a state secret who sent you.
Well, is he wrong? I saw those men from the train.
The government can go to hell if you ask me. Those sons of bitches would steal a coin off a dead man's eyes.
Mr. Marston!
And also from Mr. Nigel West Dickens himself.
What is your name, friend? John Marston. Oh, good God! Out of the frying pan into the fire! Excuse me?
How many outlaws can a man encounter in one day?
You must have me mistaken with somebody else, friend.
The Ballard Twins Walton's gang. I know who you are.
So what's the Marshal's play here? Is he simply trying to divert attention away from himself towards a man sent out by a government he detests? To add to the locals' feelings towards Marshal Johnson and the protection he provides further, we see the lack of confidence they have following an attack on Ridgewood Farm in Cholla Springs.
Some folk tried escaping to the south, but then some robbers started chasing him down like wild dogs. I thought you were supposed to protect us, Marshal. You folk ain't men. You ain't nothing. You're just a man on a government payroll taking money that the rest of us have to pay for with our lives. Yeah. What is wrong with this country?
Mount up, men. The man that kills the boss of that bunch gets $50.
It ain't about the money, Marshal. These are people's lives, people's homes.
Following a fight with the Williamson boys, those responsible for the slaughter of Ridgewood Farm, the lawmen capture a bandit alive, one Norman Deek. Now this may be simply a case of law enforcement doing their jobs, but it begs the question, why does Marshal Leigh Johnson capture certain criminals but lets others such as the Walton gang drink in his town? He seems more concerned with dealing with the outlaws on the outskirts of his jurisdiction. It's following the capture of Norman Deek we encounter the sheriff and his deputies one more time in the following scene.
I don't have a clue. All right, but it's gotta be something to do with that government boy.
We'll talk to him, find out what he knows.
Fucking is. Where is she, Marston?
Who?
Who? My daughter, you fucking scum. Where's Bonnie?
I don't know. I haven't seen her since after the fire. Why?
Why? Because she hadn't been seen since yesterday afternoon. You know, I don't think I can cope. If I lose another child...
Now, Drew, nobody's lost anything yet. I'm sure she's fine.
Oh, Mr. Marshal! Mr. Marshal! Come out, wherever you are!
Who the hell's that?
Hey, buddy. That'd be your next fucking mayor.
Even better. Good day, Mr. McFarland.
Get down from that horse, boy, or I'll shoot.
I wouldn't recommend that, mister. Not if Drew McFarland wants to see his Bonnie back in one piece. Hey, Mr. McFarland! This is a nice girl you got there.
Get out from there!
You know, part of me's got to thinking I should just marry her myself. Give her a baby and that.
What do you want?
That's better. I want Norman Deek. I want him set free. Then you'll get your daughter back, mister.
We don't do deals with outlaws, boy.
Yeah, you do! Let's not waste each other's time pretending otherwise. Oh, government themselves ain't much more than a bunch of crooks. This is the land of opportunity, mister. And I'm giving you the opportunity to get your daughter back before 15 friends of mine take out all their anger and their loneliness on her.
Where the hell is she?
Where is she, boy?
Bring Deke up to Tumbleweed in a couple hours. And don't get no funny ideas, or I will slit that horse throat myself. You boys have a pleasant afternoon. Yeah!
What do we do?
We do as he says. You and me, Marshal. Mr. McFarland, I'll get you your daughter back. I owe her that.
Please do.
There are some very important factors in the opening scene to this mission. Firstly, Drew McFarland instantly blames Bonnie's disappearance on John Marston, even though he has no actual reason to dislike the man. John has repaid his debt to the family numerous times over, so the only reason he may feel anger or distrust towards the protagonist is because Marshal Leigh Johnson has been bad-mouthing John. We already know that he's been spreading his business about. Secondly, the following line.
We don't do deals with outlaws, boy.
Yeah, you do! Let's not waste each other's time pretending otherwise. Oh, government themselves ain't much more than a bunch of crooks.
The local outlaws of the West are fully aware of the Marshal's dirty dealings, pushing the theory that he's a corrupt lawman even further. During the journey up to Tumbleweed, the Marshal furthers his distaste for the government, emphasising his dislike for their interference in his lands. This once more shows that he feels like he may lose his side hustles.
See, this is what happens when the Federals interfere in our affairs. Are you happy now?
No, I ain't happy at all. And I already told you, I ain't with the government.
Now you say that, John, but the only thing I know for sure is who sent you.
They made me come here. They gave me no choice. That's your federal government, Mr. Johnson.
They come down here dressed as cocky as the King of Diamonds, talking a lot of flannel about helping us, about spreading peace and civilization to the West, but they brought nothing but trouble and taxes. People around here have been fooled into feeling protected, when they're worse off than they were before.
Following the rescue of Bonnie McFarlane, we encounter the Marshal and his deputies one final time, where he's kept good on his word about helping John take down the Williamson boys at Fort Mercer. So with the evidence of the treasure map, the opinions of the local populace concerning the sheriff, the fact that he allows the Waltons gang to roam freely in his town while seemingly being hell-bent on wiping out all of the factions, and his distaste for government interference, is this enough to conclude that Marshal Leigh Johnson, the man sent to protect the town of Armadillo and its surroundings, is just as corrupt as the local posses of outlaws he set out to eliminate? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you enjoyed what you saw today, you all know what to do, and if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Thank you all for watching. You've been listening to Phil of Philby Gaming, and this has been Lawgiver or Lawbreaker, the corruption of Marshal Leigh Johnson.